Another story is that Pandora was sent in good faith by Jupiter to bless man, that she was furnished with a box containing her marriage presents, in which every god had put some blessing. She opened the box incautiously, and the blessings all escaped. Hope only accepted. This story seems more probable than the former, for how could hope, so precious a jewel as it is, have been kept in a jar full of all manner of evils, as in the former statement? The world being thus furnished with inhabitants, the first age was an age of innocence and happiness, called the world being thus furnished with inhabitants, the first age was an age of innocence and happiness, called the Golden Age. Truth and right prevailed, though not enforced by law, nor was there any magistrate to threaten or punish. The forest had not yet been robbed of its trees to furnish timbers for vessels, nor had men built fortifications round their towns. There were no such things as swords, spears, or helmets. The earth brought forth all things necessary for man without his labor, into plowing or sowing. Perpetual spring reigned, flowers sprang up without seed, the rivers flowed with milk and wine, and yellow honey distilled from the oaks. Then succeeded the Silver Age, inferior to the golden, but better than that of brass. Jupiter shortened the spring and divided the year into seasons. Then first men had to endure the extremes of heat and cold, and houses became necessary. Caves were the first dwellings, and leafy coverts of the woods, and huts woven of twigs. Crops would no longer grow without planting. The farmer was obliged to sow the seed, and the toiling ox to draw the plough. Next came the Brazen Age, more savage of temper, and readier to the strife of arms, yet not altogether wicked. The hardest and worst was the Iron Age. Crime burst in like a flood. Modesty, truth, and honor fled. In their places came fraud and cunning, violence, and the wicked love of gain. Then seamen spread sails to the wind, and the trees were torn from the mountains to serve for keels to ships and vex the face of the ocean. The earth, which till now had been cultivated in common, began to be divided off into possessions. Men were not satisfied with what the surface produced, but must dig into its bowels and draw forth from thence the ores of metals. Mischievous iron and more mischievous gold were produced. War sprang up, using both as weapons. The guest was not safe in his friend's house, and son-in-law and fathers-in-law, and sons-in-law and fathers-in-law, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, could not trust one another. Sons wished their fathers dead, that they might come into the inheritance. Family love lay prostrate. The earth was wet with slaughter, and the gods abandoned it one by one, till Astrea alone was left, and finally she also took her departure. Jupiter, seeing this state of things, burned with anger. He summoned the gods to council. They obeyed the call and took the road to the palace of heaven. The road, which anyone may see in a clear night, stretches across the face of the sky and is called the Milky Way. Along the road stand the palaces of the illustrious gods. The common people of the skies live apart on either side. Jupiter addressed the assembly. He set forth the frightful condition of things on the earth, and closed by announcing his intention to destroy the whole of its inhabitants and provide a new race, unlike the first, who would be more worthy of life and much better worshippers of the gods. So saying, he took a thunderbolt and was about to launch it at the world and destroy it by burning. but recollecting the danger that such a conflagration might set heaven itself on fire, he changed his plan and resolved to drown it. The north wind, which scatters the clouds, was chained up. The south was sent out, and soon covered all the face of heaven with a cloak of pitchy darkness. Astrea, the goddess of innocence and purity, after leaving Earth, she was placed among the stars, where she became the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. Themis, Justice, was the mother of Astrea. She is represented as holding aloft a pair of scales in which she weighs the claims of opposing parties. It was a favorite idea of the old poets that these goddesses would one day return and bring back the golden age. Even in a Christian hymn, the Messiah of Pope, this idea occurs. All crimes shall cease, and ancient fraud shall fail. Returning justice, lift aloft her scale. Peace o'er the world her olive wand extend, and white-robed innocence from heaven descend. The clouds, driven together, resound with a crash. Torrents of rain fall. The crops are laid low. The year's labor of the husbandman perishes in an hour. Jupiter, not satisfied with his own waters, calls on his brother Neptune to aid him with his. He lets loose the rivers and pours them over the land. At the same time, he heaves the land with an earthquake and brings in the reflux of the ocean over the shores. Flocks, herds, men, and houses are swept away, and temples, with their sacred enclosures, profaned. If any edifice remained standing, it was overwhelmed, and turrets lay hid beneath the waves. Now all was sea, sea without shore. Here and there an individual remained on a projecting hilltop, and a few in boats pull the oar where they had lately driven the plow. The fishes swim among the treetops. The anchor is let down into a garden, where the graceful lambs played, but now unwieldy sea calves gambol. The wolf swims among the sheep. The yellow lions and tigers struggle in the water. The strength of the wild boar serves him not, nor his swiftness the stag. The birds fall with weary wing into the water, having found no land for a resting place. Those living beings whom the water spared fell a prey to hunger. Parnassus alone of all the mountains overtopped the waves, and there Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha, of the race of Prometheus, found refuge. He, a just man, and she, a faithful worshipper of the gods. Jupiter, when he saw none left alive but this pair, and remembered their harmless lives and pious demeanor, ordered the north winds to drive away the clouds and disclose the skies to earth, and earth to the skies. Neptune also directed Triton to blow on his shell and sound a retreat to the waters. The waters obeyed, and the sea returned to its shores, and the rivers to their channels. Then Deucalion thus addressed Pyrrha, O wife, only surviving woman, joined to me first by the ties of kindred and marriage, and now by a common danger. Would that we possessed by the power of our ancestor Prometheus, and could renew the race, as he first made it. But as we cannot, let us seek yonder temple, and inquire of the gods what remains for us to do.